Thank you for being with me today in Ask Don't Tell, where we really help you to uncover what is really important for your client. And for those of you who've been listening to the show, you know that I'm all about how do you connect? How do you really connect with your clients, regardless of whether you have sales experience, no sales experience, or a rock star? How do you shift it from what the world does, which is tell, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch? We don't want to hear that anymore. Ask Don't Tell is about digging deep with your clients and really uncovering what they need and want, so you can present the right solutions without being honestly an ass. So today we've got someone with just looking at your stuff, Josh. Just looking. I mean, I've done a little bit of research. Actually, I've done a lot of research. Just looking at your stuff, I'm quite confident that you live in an ask don't tell world. I'm quite confident that you have a lot of experience in teaching real estate, commercial real estate, residential real estate, and many other things about connecting with clients and doing the best they can. Really, it's a life thing that you do for your real estate agents. So tell us a little about Close for Life. How did it come to be? And just a quick outlook on Close for Life. What is it all about?
Sure. It's about how to close customers for life, how to take and go from getting a deal done. And this is even how we measure success in my industry. How many deals did you do? How many closings did you have? You know what, Chris? If I do a deal with you, I don't want this deal. I want every deal you're ever going to do. I want to know how to do this deal in such a way that when somebody says something about real estate, you go, oh, Oscar, I'm sorry. Mine's going a million miles per hour here. I want you, Oscar, to be able to say, real estate, I got a guy. You got to talk to this guy, right? How do we do business? How do we close business like that? Because if we're doing that, we're not doing what most sales is about, earning a paycheck. We are building a business.
Awesome. What I loved when I was kind of reading your stuff is that, I read that it says you use real world skills. So like I always say, what I teach in these shows isn't science, isn't neuroscience. I didn't, come up with it in a bathroom. Like, this is the real world. This is how the world works. And we're going to get a little bit about your questions and your closing and negotiation. But tell me about, why this comes from the real world, from your experience that you pass over to your clients.
Well, I think that great businesses anticipate their customer. And so, what is the anticipation we can have? Because when you're in sales, you got a problem, which is the customer's natural reaction to a salesperson. In real estate, we have a saying, Oscar, and that saying is buyers are liars. And I say buyers are liars because agents have done nothing to show them that they're worthy of the truth. All right. If you go to a used car lot and you're looking at a used car and the used car salesman comes up, you feel him coming. You don't even hear him. You feel him coming. Like the antelope in the savannah that feels the lion coming, right? And the used car salesman, hey, I see you looking at the car. How much money you got to spend on a car today? You're going to lie to him. Right. So it's not just about, to me, it's not just about asking the questions. It's setting myself up as not a salesperson, but a person that's looking out for their good. So that when I do ask the questions, I increase the likelihood of getting honest answers that are, as you're saying, is going to cut to the quick of what I need to know in order to really put what I've done, building myself up to be a good resource, how to allocate that to help them make the best possible choices. Because if they're holding their cards close to the vest, I don't know enough to know what to tell them the best play is.
All right. Well, let's kind of package that. So one of the things that I'm always striving and teaching people is that the way, and you have it right on, like if you're a car dealership and the person just comes up to you and starts kind of selling to you or pitching to you, they never set the framework. And this happens to salespeople in any industry all the time. So I'm always talking about, you start with intent, you frame the conversation, you from the very beginning do what I call an intent statement. You say, hey, this is where we're going. This is just a conversation. And at the end of our time together, I hope if there's a good fit, I might be able to help you. So
absolutely.
Most real estate agents, you might not know this, But I come from a real estate family. Both my parents were real estate agents. I've been speaking real estate since I was a kid, and that's all we spoke in the table. All we spoke, right? I have holdings. I love real estate. So you're speaking to the guy that knows, and this is what I know. A lot of real estate agents don't understand Josh C's concept. They just dive straight into selling, pitching. They dive
It's a straight.
straight into a script. So what are some of the ways that you teach people to frame the conversation so that that stress kind of goes away and they can start a good relationship?
So one of the lines, it's always implied in what I say, and I've been doing it long enough that I don't actually have to voice this for the customer to get that's where it's coming from, because it's internalized enough that it's almost preset. But I teach my agents to say something along the lines of, "Hey, Oscar, you're looking to do something real estate. All right, bud. Here's the stuff you got to look out for. Here's the stuff you got to know. Here's what you got to worry about. This is what a bad agent looks like. This is what a good agent looks like. This is what you want to know, right? And by the way, Oscar, here's the market you get. My goal for this conversation, Oscar, is that you're going to know how it works, so that there's a lot of bad players out there. All right. I want to make sure that nobody can pull the wool over your eyes. You're going to understand how this whole thing works so that you can take and differentiate for yourself. If you choose to work with me when we're done, that's awesome. I'd love to help you. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that you have what you need to know the difference between a good one and a bad one, a good agent and a bad agent, a good deal and a bad deal. I want to turn you into the best buyer, seller, whatever you can be. And as I said, if at the end you choose to reward me with your business, that'd be wonderful.
So what I heard there, and one of the things I'm always teaching is you got to be listening. It's not what you say; it's kind of reading between the lines, and that's what makes a salesperson really good. So kind of what I read there is in your own way, in your own form of intent statement, you're setting the stage. But what I really liked is, look, if there's not a fit for us to work together, we're not going to work together. Like I'm not here to force you to do anything. I'm going to give you the information.
Give
I'm going
them
to
permission to leave.
yeah.
Absolutely. Give them, look, if you want to date me, that's great. If you like the other guy, that's okay. I don't have to go out on a date with everybody. It's okay. I think back in life, Oscar, I'm very grateful for the people that I wanted to go out with that it didn't work out for now in retrospect. You know what I mean?
So Josh, when you do this, and I know where I'm taking you with these questions, but I want the audience to really see the experience here and what the values of what you're saying. So when you do this and you kind of set that stage in that tone and you say, look, if we're not the right fit, we're just kind of not going to work. What does that do to the other side? What do you sense from them? Like pressure, release, like what do you sense from the other side? Trust, confidence when they're like, okay, this guy looks like he's got experience, and if it's not the right fit, I'm happy to walk away.
So there's two ways that we could date.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
We could go out on a date with somebody who all they do is brag about themselves. All right.
Right.
And here's my experience. The Barry White music is not playing later on that evening. All right. We're
Right.
keeping the Barry White album. We're going home alone.
Right.
Or we could go out with somebody who they start talking to us. And next thing we know, the server's tapping us on the shoulder and saying, guys, I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave. And you look at your watch and 3 hours disappeared. So what I try to do is there's actually 3 steps that I put it into. Anticipate the customer. They don't want to be sold to. They're sick of guys. You can't do anything and not be sold to. They're sick of it. So they have an automatic no response. They are the beautiful girl at the bar that's been hit on 15 times tonight. And I'm guy number 16 saying, hey, could I buy you a drink? Like they got a no ready that's got nothing to do with me. Right. So
Right.
I got to get past that no. So I'm going to anticipate. I have empathy. Could you imagine trying to sit there and just enjoy a drink and get bothered? I have tremendous empathy for their position. And then I'm going to pre-negotiate everything. I'm going to pre-negotiate by sitting here and by giving them permission to use somebody else. It turns the conversation from a sales pitch to advice. And the cool thing is they'll listen to the advice, and that allows me to display the differential in what I know versus what they know, which secures their need for me. Right? If I know a lot more than they do, they either want me or they want somebody like me. And I'm not sitting there bragging about how much I know. I'm just telling, look, guys, based upon the brain damage I've picked up, the BST, thank God the shirt is long sleeve. You don't see the scars all over my body that I've picked up from doing this the hard way. please learn from my pain and suffering. Here's the stuff that you want to avoid, like your friend or your brother would tell you. You
Right.
know, that's the conversation, and they start to feel more about you like you're a friend or a brother than you're somebody just trying to take and make a buck by making a sale.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. So like, so what I like to do in an intent statement, I actually separated kind of into 5 parts, but that intent statement, and you said a couple things that are already included in there. For example, empathy
Huge.
is huge, because you're right. They might have already been through so many things. They're like, oh, not one more. But also, kind of one of the things you said is, are you the 16th guy? So are you asking for permission? Like, are you just coming up and saying, hey, let me pitch to you? Or are you setting the stone to ask for permission in a way to say, hey, can we have a conversation? And that's going to separate you from the other 15. And so I really love the way that you unpackaged that. And then you're kind of setting them, I don't want to say setting them up for what's going to be next, which is you kind of digging deeper into the questions that you're about to ask. So let's go into that. Let's go into discovery, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of real estate, professionals, they have been trained perhaps to pitch. And I'm not saying all of them. Some of them are very good at connecting, at asking the right questions, at digging deep in what I call discovery. But how do you train, how do you help real estate professionals to understand that it's not about pitching, but it's really about uncovering a client's needs, really digging deep, and really just listening? How do you do that? How do you get that shift going?
Well, I think the important thing to recognize is you could be a very talented and knowledgeable agent that has all the tools necessary to help somebody. But if you can't get them to give you the information so that you can apply that, so you understand, hey, I'm a high income earner. I'm better off with a property that's highly leveraged, so that I'm having a small amount of income, but I have huge tax losses that I can offset my income. That I'm paying 37. Like I need to know that, but they don't want to tell me they earn high income when I first meet them, right? And so it's earning the right to the honest answers is my first piece of this, right? So I've got to go in and earn the right. And I'm going to do that by not falling into what I think is the most dangerous box in the world. There's a little box in their head that says real estate agent on it, and they think it's like if I said to you, Oscar, a biker. Like you
Right.
get a picture in your head of what a
I
biker
already
is.
got one right here. I already got
Right?
one.
Maybe some facial hair, some
Yeah.
leather, some tattoos. Like it may not be the same picture in my
Hey,
head, but we got
careful.
a
That's 99% of our audience.
here you go. And I love that. It's all good, right? So I need to make sure because I'm in that anticipation. I know their picture they have in their head of a real estate agent. I know what that is. At least the studies tell us it's lazy, not very smart, overpaid, and all they care about is getting paid. So if I start asking questions that in any way falls into what they're thinking, a real estate
Right.
agent be, they're automatically going to put me in that box. I'm just another sleazy salesman, and I've got to avoid that box. So by earning honest answers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to them in a way that's different. I'm going to take and front load what they need,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to say, they're going to actually, usually if I've done this well, and the knock with my system is the big downside, it takes more time because I'm going to spend an hour and a half having a conversation about, hey guys, here's all the stuff you need. Here's the environment that we're in. This is the kind of market. This is where we're seeing the market. So it's more time consuming. But instead of my closure rate being in the single digit percentage, it's in the 90s.
Right.
Because when I'm done, they're asking me a question. Well, can I work with you? Well, I'd love to work with you. That's fantastic. All right, so here's what I need to know in order to figure out where to position you in this.
Right.
And then they're giving me full unbridled permission to ask these questions, and they're going to give me honest answers because they know that I'm not in this to try to get paid. I'm in this to look out for them, and me getting paid is just an offshoot, a
So,
natural occurrence from that.
so let's unpackage a couple questions. So, for example, I take the process of discovery, which is basically asking questions, connecting with the heart, what's important to them, getting to the
Sure.
motives. I call them third level questions. So one of the first parts of the first why of the 4 whys is making sure that you ask questions where the other side understands or tells you why they need help. So, I mean, something as simple as, why do you need help? Like, why are we even having this? What is a great question that you would train someone or that you ask that uncovers from the other end, whether they're actually need help or they're just kind of kicking around, going to 3, 4, 5 real estate agents and just kind of getting information because they want to be a real estate agent. Like, how do you know someone really needs help? What is a great question for that? I'm putting you on the spot here.
My favorite question, and
Mhm.
especially this is the question I use with investor customers.
Okay.
Have you ever invested before? And if so, in what?
Okay.
Because that question is going to allow me to make all kinds of assumptions about what they need to know and what they don't know, right? And it's also going to show me one of the ways that I love to do this, Oscar, because my product it's a little different than just general, a lot of other sales. It allows me to challenge. If it's a seasoned investor, it allows me to challenge things they think they know to show them where they're leaving money on the table, right? So I'm going to make these assumptions. Like I try, believe it or not, my method is to ask fewer questions up front and then to have questions a little bit later in the process. Because again, trying to avoid that real estate box. But the question I'm going to ask them is, have you ever done this before? If so, what have you invested before in what? And that's because the answers that I'm going to get are going to tell me exactly what that customer is going to want. A new investor, for me, easy. They're more scared and there's a whole lot they don't know.
Right.
So I'm immediately going to take and fill in the lexicon. Hey, look, here's the terms. Here's what you got to look out for. Here's where mistakes. This is where first time people get hurt. All right, that's what you want to look out for. That kind of stuff. It's going to let me have that conversation. Again, gifting a lot of information up front. But once we do that, I'm going to say, all right, now what's the risk tolerance look like for you? We've talked about a lot of risks, a lot of things that concern you. What's the thing that scares you most going into this? Right? Because if I've explained it well, they'll hopefully have a better sense from that. Usually, like with a new person, it's going to be the wrong thing they're worried about. So, what's the thing you're worried about and why? And it's going to help me to take and steer them to the things that they should be more concerned with. And I can try to build out their risk profile a little bit rather than just having to live with
Right.
the risk profile they come to me with.
So one of the things that I'm seeing is, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just unpackaging, you're just kind of peeling the onion, right? And that first question actually was a great question. One, because it's not a yes no answer. It's like you're going to see them kind of turn to the right, turn to the left, think a little bit before they probably answer it. But what you're getting, and then what you kind of followed up with is that answer just gives you ability to dig in deeper and dig even deeper. I mean, what's the greatest challenge that you're currently having? It, what's the risk tolerance that you have? Give me a little bit of an example of something you've invested in before that you would, what were some of the challenges that you faced through that, and how could you make that different? Like what I'm hearing from you is, and I loved what you said. I'm going to connect with them first so that they really, really give you what you need to know before you go to the pitch phase. And there's not a pitch phase, but to the actual kind of helping them phase, only uncovering first what their real challenge is. So at some point, though, I'm going to put you on the spot here again because you're a pro. I can already see this. So the third why, and I'm not going to go into the second why. The third why is why you, like why Josh, right? And so most salespeople, untrained, then they start pitching about, well, let me tell you about me. 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 And then they go on for 30 minutes. What is a great question that you love to ask or could ask to discover what they know about you? Like they may know everything. They may think you are the best, or they may think that you're the worst, or they may know nothing about you. So what's a great question that a real estate agent or that you, Josh, asked to discover really what they know about the person sitting in front of them?
It's interesting, Oscar, because I'm a big believer in anticipating and making assumptions.
Right.
I'm going to go in assuming that I have no respect,
I
and
love it.
I have to go in there and earn it, right? So I'm going to think they don't know me from Adam, and then if they say, "Oh no, my cousin told me you're the only guy," I can modify my conversation to that, right? But I'm going to go in there. One of the lines that I love, and this is one that I've leaned into a lot: champions are not made in the ring; they're recognized in it. It's the work I do before I meet the customer
Got
that
it.
turns that conversation into a one Mike Tyson in his prime knockout. How long is the fight? How long it takes him to get from his corner to get his fist to your face? That's how long the fight's going to be, right? I want to be able to take and establish for them my credibility, not with a resume. The one thing that never works its way into my conversation usually is me. I
I love
never
it.
talk about me. I talk about the market. I talk about things that other agents don't that are going to help them make the best choice. That's me showing them my integrity that before I ever met you, Oscar, I did all this work so that when I did meet you, I'd actually be worthy of your business.
I love it. I love it. And that, I mean, how annoying is it, Josh? And I'm sure you've seen this all the time, right? You know, a real estate professional. And and I hate the word use Asians because in your industry, you're working with a lot of people that not necessarily are, I mean, they're professionals, they're investors, they're different things, right? And so when you meet someone and they immediately go to the me commercial, right? And let me tell you about me. I mean, it's just so annoying and it's the old way to do business. So I love that that your that your sell of yourself is what you've done before and it's not about you. I sometimes just love the question, asking the question of, well, what do you know about me? And
Hmm.
then right there they unpackage everything that they probably assumed about you. But what I'm hearing from you is because you've done such a good job prior to that, they're probably going to give you a really positive answer, right? So that's, I love what you said there.
I mean, it's if the tough thing is, right? I'm always trying to teach agents. There's so many places where they're getting other stuff. I'm trying to show them the picture of what the goal is. The goal is to know this well enough that simply talking about the thing, because the question, again, bread on the table. And I say bread on the table. I used to be in the restaurant business, Oscar, right? And in the restaurant business, you know what I would guess, not having met my customer, I'd assume, very controversial, that they're hungry. And so that's step one. I anticipate that the hungry subset of people will be the ones that come in my restaurant.
Right.
So that's the anticipate piece. My empathy piece is how do I feel when I'm hungry? When I'm hungry, Oscar, I can smell that prime rib that got delivered 7 tables away from my table, right? I'm hungry, I'm grumpy. Like grumpy's a problem. So I pre-negotiate. You know how I pre-negotiate? I put bread on the table. That's me anticipating my customer, having empathy. I'm trying to sell them food and I'm putting free food on the table
I
because I'm
love it.
pre negotiating out that grumpy thing. So that's not something you can do overnight. It requires you to transition to thinking about what's the stuff they really need to know and how do I give it? How do I communicate it in a way that's pre negotiating for me, not having to give this resume conversation or any of this stuff to basically show them I've been preparing years for this moment in time.
Awesome. 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 I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So let's go to the real world here. You know, we talk about real world skills. You know, obviously we're talking about the real world, but in the real world, you know, the world, especially in the world of investors, you get no. No is part of the process. I always teach no is part of the process. And what
Absolutely.
separates just a normal person with a rock star is the ability to overcome stalls, objections, excuses, being able to really get past that. So, how do you, um, you know, a lot of sales professionals, I mean, a lot of real estate professionals consider themselves salespeople. Some don't,
Mhm.
but you can't be a salesperson without understanding that objections are part of the process and you're going to get to know. So how do you do that mindset in Close for Life where you make them understand that, hey, you're going to get those no's and teach them to, you know, to overcome those. You know, how do you do that? How do you help people overcome those objections? Because I saw it's part of your program.
Sure. So I think it's if you're talking about managing my own mental headspace,
Mhm.
that's a big part of it because I am the CEO of my operation, and that makes me also the HR department for maintaining my staff's morale. And I very much like to separate out that dichotomy, that schizophrenia of you, if you will, as a salesperson, especially in real estate where you're really functioning as your own boss. That CEO staff mentality and setting things up where I'm putting things in place to maintain the morale of my staff. One of my favorites is my previous brokers. His life philosophy was next. That's it. You lose $1 million commission. Next. A girlfriend of 15 years breaks up. Next. You just, what's the next thing I got to do? And that can help. There's also for me, like there's YouTube videos that I'll go and watch that are just, like scenes from movies that the kind of scenes that make you feel like you go tear the bark off a tree with your teeth, kind of thing. Like the end of Braveheart or the last fight in Rocky Balboa or something like that, where you get your health self back in the mental headspace. But um, I understand that there's going to be no's, and often I'm grateful for the no's. And I'll go back to dating. She's super attracted. Oh my gosh, I'd love to go, but she likes guys with face tattoos. I don't have a face tattoo, and there's not a universe where I'm going to get one, right? And so I'm okay that I'm not a fit for everybody. I'm a fit for enough people that I can build a beautiful, big, robust business, help people. And you know what tends to happen? That person that wanted the face tattoo, 5 years from now, they come back and say, I should have gone out with you instead of doing what I did. And I'm okay with that. I think one of the biggest things is, Oscar, to recognize that I don't need every deal.
Right.
People put too much pressure on themselves. I mean, if every person you talk to, you're trying to go out with, and it's like the end of the world if you don't get a yes, if you don't get that date. I'm okay with not getting, like, when I got in my dating life, before I was married, like when I went from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset of like, there's plenty out there to eat.
So,
I don't eat every cookie.
So for example, and I love how you're packaging that, which is, not every deal is going to be a fit, and you don't have to push through deals. Sometimes the deals that actually go through are the ones that are just kind of meant to be because there was a good connection. And powering through, I always say pitching, powering through, convincing in the sales world or in the non-sales world simply does not work. People do not like to be told what to do. They like to make their own decisions by perhaps asking a better question that helps them realize, oh, well, maybe that is an excuse. So I like to say, overcoming isolating objections is getting people to understand that what they're saying sometimes is just an excuse to know, and helping
Absolutely.
them realize that moving forward, or sometimes you give them the solution to move forward. So let me ask you this. So if you know that you are kind of putting you on the spot here, so if you know you've got if you know there's a fit, and this is going to help a lot of your listeners, if you know there's a fit and it's right for them, and you just know that they're making a mistake by not moving forward, and they're giving you the excuses, well, not today, I don't have the money, I got to talk to my wife, all the excuses. What are some of the things that you could train, or how do you train others to get past those excuses of objections so that they can move forward when it's the right deal? Maybe it's a question that you ask, maybe it's a technique that you use. We've got just a couple minutes here.
I love it because, I'm giving you kind of the passive answer, and I'm big on fighting,
Mm-hmm.
for every deal as best I can. I'm giving you kind of like after you fought the good fight and now. But to answer your question specifically, one of the big things that abundance mindset allows you to do is to relax enough where you can use one of my favorite tools,
I love
which
it.
is just being comfortable answering funny. If you're okay being funny, if you're
Uh-huh.
okay using a silly, so let's say they're sitting here saying, Josh, we want to work with you, but we don't want to pay you so much. We want you to take a pay cut. I say, look, you know what? Shopping agents on price is probably one of the silliest things. I mean, if you were on trial for murder, would you walk in the attorney's office? Who's the cheapest guy you got? You wouldn't do that, right? When it's important enough, quality matters more than price. You want somebody good, or do you want somebody cheap? I mean, do you really want the Spirit Airlines of real estate agents? And so I would say that would be different handles on the same objection. That's a little bit silly. I mean, I have people that tell me, well, I want this and I won't pay more than this. Oh, so, okay, you want something impossible. So I'll look them right in the eyes. I'll say something, I want to be taller and better looking, but
so
else.
so I love what you're saying. I mean, we're a lot of the concepts that you and I probably teach are have similarities.
Sure.
We just call them a little bit different. So for example, what you just mentioned is, in a lot of times that I'm teaching is, look, sometimes just being a human being, like, you don't have to be this salesperson. Like, there doesn't have to be this, forget about everything you've been taught. Like, when you come to know and you've built rapport, which I love because you talk about, you've built rapport, you've dug deep, you've asked the right questions, you've really helped them, you've found the solution. Guess what? You've earned the right. You've earned the right to look at them as a human being and say, look, I get what you're saying, but and just you being funny, even using using humor, or like I would say being a human, and that's what Asto tells about using your human skills to say, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna work for 1%, right? Like like, and I love the way you did that in the example, but really what you're using is what I love to call human skills
Yeah.
that makes it possible for you to do that. And those human skills that you have, Josh, which are amazing, are probably what help you be a rock star at what you are. Absolutely. So let's go there. I am talking to a real professional here. I am talking to someone that knows what he's talking about. I am talking to someone that can impact and change lives. So, um, what do you want listeners that want to know a little bit more about you, about your methodology, about your books, about your courses, or something that you would want them to take home with today that they could apply today, after listening to this podcast?
I think that the biggest thing is that I found that I just genuinely love the agents that show up, the people that show up and try to get the trainings, are trying to. I mean, to me, these are some of the most. They're doing their things the right way, and unfortunately, they're rewarded with very poor educational choices. They're rewarded with stuff that was 30 years ago mentality. And so, what I've tried to do, as inexpensively as I can, is create places for them to go. We just launched about a month and a half ago the Close for Life app. Close, the number 4, life, all one word, app. We also have the book, but the Close for Life app, we have some free tutorial stuff in there on um, like handling lowball offers. I have template emails. I have tutorials on the financial calculator that I'm always using, like a lot of my tools, and it's just free stuff that's in there. Also, one of the cool things that I got, Oscar, and this has been a long mission to get done. I have a business news feed that we have that's like really apolitical. So you're not getting a political message. You're just getting data.
Right.
Like today, the producer price index came and the number came in higher than we expected. What does that mean? Like, and not sitting here saying these other guys are stupid because look at that. Like,
Right.
no, it's the numbers, the effects, right? And so that the Close for Life app is probably the thing I'm most proud of. We have the podcast, my podcast feed is in there. And then we have, if folks want it, there's the membership to the Close for Life community, which we meet once a week on Zoom. I help agents through problems that they're having. I have probably about 60 hours of some of my best trainings in there, my CE
Okay.
classes.
So what
And
would be
they're,
the best way to if I want to take a step towards Close for Life? Is it the podcast, or would it be going to the website? Would it be connecting
I
with
would say
you?
if you don't know whether or not my brain damage works for you, because I definitely have my own specific brain damage I bring to this stuff, I would say definitely download the app. It's free. You're not going to get like spammed or anything like that. Go look at some of the free stuff because you'll see some of my teaching style and see if it helps you to understand things. If you like it, there's also the podcast there. You could all in the one place. If you like it, then you go to the mastermind thing. I made it as cheap as I possibly can. It's $49.99, I think, is what the discount is right now for
Okay.
it. And just trying to get as many people that I can help in one place so we can have this community where we're having these better quality of conversations. Because if you're practicing having that good, relaxed conversation, when the customer hits you with the curveball, you just got done spending 30 hours in the batting cage doing nothing but hitting curveballs.
There you
You're
go.
ready for it.
So, Josh, that's awesome. I'm gonna before I end the show, I just want to say I've really enjoyed having you on the show. I'll tell you why, because there's a difference between the things that one says and then actually them eating their own cooking in the way that they live. So when I asked you, what are the things they can do to connect with you, you actually did exactly as you said that you do in the real world. You said, look, the information's out there. If you think that my brain or my methodology works for you, we'll connect. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. I'm just trying to give you that goes 100% in line, the business of Close for Life and what you're inviting people to do as what you talked about, taught today, and taught us today. So I thank you so much for being on the show, Josh, and hopefully we'll have you back. Wish you the best. I know you've got a speaking gig today, but you heard it. If you want to connect with him, download the app, go to the site, and then see if it's right for you. And I'm sure you'll be able to connect. Stay on so we can have a few minutes after the show. But I'll see everyone next time. And ask, don't tell. Thank you. Have a great day.